Hello viewers, in my previous lectures on disaccharides, I had discussed with you lactose in great detail. I had also introduced maltose and cellobiose in those lectures. And we know, and where there I had concentrated on the glycosidic bonds, and when we were talking of lactose, I had also discussed lactose intolerance with you. That is, lactose intolerance results because of the fact that enzyme lactase does not show its expression in some human beings. That means it is non-functional and hence it is not able to digest, that means hydrolyze, metabolize lactose into its subunits, that is galactose and glucose, and it accumulates in the stomach, where it accumulates in the intestine, where it gives abdominal pain and vomiting sensation and diarrhea. So carrying the lecture forward from there, I would like to discuss another disaccharide, which is the most abundant disaccharide, which is sucrose. And you know, sucrose occurs in photosynthetic plants. Sucrose is also sweeter than maltose and lactose. And please remember, the sugar which we consume in our daily life is also sucrose. So therefore, sucrose is also referred to as table sugar or simple sugar. Then we can obtain sucrose from sugar cane. So it is also known as cane sugar. We can obtain it from beetroot, and hence it is also known as beet sugar. So please remember, sucrose is known by many names like table sugar, cane sugar, beet sugar or simple sugar. Whereas when we were talking of lactose, lactose is known as milk sugar. Maltose is known as malt sugar. Cellobiose is also of course known as cellobiose, and it is obtained from partial hydrolysis of cellulose. So now we go on to further discussion. So what will sucrose give us when we carry out its hydrolysis with enzyme saccharase, or we can also carry out its acidic hydrolysis. So when we carry out the acidic hydrolysis or enzymatic hydrolysis of sucrose, we are getting alpha D-glucose and we are getting beta D-fructose. Now you know what does alpha signify here. This OH is at the anomeric carbon is pointing downwards, whereas when we talk of the beta form, this OH is pointing upwards. So this is the difference between the two. And the other point that you have to remember is that this is the glucopyranose ring, because it is a 6-membered ring here with oxygen, which is your heteroatom, which is present in the ring. Whereas fructose is also known as fructofuranase. Why is fructose, this ring, known as fructofuranase? Because here we have a 5-membered ring, that is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5-membered ring, with oxygen being as a heteroatom. So now when this sucrose on hydrolysis is giving us alpha D-glucose and beta D-fructose, so we can say that sucrose is a di-sugar or it is a double sugar which is made up of alpha D-glucose and beta D-fructose residues. Now here again I have elaborated these, and here I have written that alpha D plus glucopyranose. So alpha indicates the orientation of the OH at the anomeric carbon, D indicates the configuration of the OH at the highest numbered asymmetric carbon in Fischer's projection, that is, it is on the right hand side, and plus of course indicates that it is dextrorotatory. Now in this case, when we are talking of fructose anomeric OH and the CH2OH are on the same side of the ring. So the configuration assigned here is beta. It is D. Why is it D? Because the OH is on the right hand side at the highest numbered asymmetric center, and then it is levorotatory. Minus indicates it is levorotatory, and then it is fructo because it is the Hayward structure of fructose, and it is furanose. Why furanose? Because it has a furan ring in it, basic ring, and O's because it's carbohydrate. Similarly is the case with glucopyranose because it is cyclic form, epimer of glucose, and pyranose because it is existing as a 6-membered ring, which is basic structure of pyrene, and the oxygen here is the heteroatom. Now the point that I would like to clarify here, that D, please remember capital D is indicating the configuration of OH at the highest numbered asymmetric center in Fisher's projection, that is the highest numbered carbon, that is the OH on the 5th carbon in both glucose and fructose will be on the right hand side, and we know that this OH will become the anomeric OH when we treat it with the aldehyde group, right? The second point that you have to remember, both of them are having configuration capital D, that is glucose and fructose, but both of them are not having the same rotation, sign of rotation. So that means capital D refers to configuration, and plus or minus or small d or small l refers to specific rotation of the molecule. Here plus indicates that glucopyranose is dextrorotatory, that is it would rotate the path of plane polarized light in right hand direction, whereas minus in this case in fructofuranase indicates that fructose is levorotatory, that is it will rotate the path of plane polarized light in left hand direction. So a question which can be framed here is that fructose has configuration capital D, therefore it is dextrorotatory. Is it true or false? Your answer is going to be it is false, because capital D indicates the configuration at the highest numbered asymmetric carbon. It has got nothing to do with the specific rotation of the molecule. Specific rotation is the inherent property of the molecule, that is it is the one which will rotate the path of plane polarized light. It is a physical property of the molecule. So it is fructose is levorotatory because of its inherent property, whereas which is indicated by small d or minus, and capital D indicates the configuration of OH on highest numbered asymmetric carbon. Now another question which is important and which you normally find they ask you in exams also, and the question is mostly asked on synthesis of sucrose from glucose and fructose. Now glucose and fructose are slightly different from other molecules. In this case what we find that the molecule, the glycosidic linkage is between the first carbon of the glucose molecule, that is the anomeric carbon, and then the linkage is between the second carbon of the fructose molecule, which is again the anomeric carbon. So that means the reaction, the condensation reaction here is taking place between the two OH hydroxyl groups which are attached to anomeric carbons. So that means now, how do you think it is feasible to make a bond like this? It will be very cumbersome. How are we representing this? So the one way is that you can flip the molecule of fructose. So when I say you flip the molecule of fructose, you have to remember that you will rotate the molecule by 180 degrees. You will not rotate the molecule by 90, because remember, if you are rotating the molecule by 90 degrees, we will come to a configuration which is opposite to that of the original form. That is, it will result in enantiomer. What we want is, we want the same molecule. So what will you do? You will flip the groups. So when I say you will flip the groups, what I mean here is the entire ring will be flipped. Which ring will be flipped? This ring will be flipped. When we flipping it on this side, that means this OH we'll interchange the position of this OH and CH2OH. This CH2 and OH position will be changed when it comes here, interchanged, and these will also be interchanged. So that is one way of doing it. I find the other way which is more convenient, and what we do in this case, we write the two moieties, that is the two residues of alpha D glucose and beta D fructose in such a manner so that we are writing them at least parallel to each other, one above the other, in such a way that these two anomeric carbons are facing each other. So if you write it in such a way that these two OH are anomeric carbons, and that means anomeric hydroxyl groups are facing each other, it will be very convenient to make a glycosidic bond here. So what you have to remember is, you remove a OH from here, H from here, or OH from here and H from here, and we get a glycosidic bond here. Now this glycosidic bond is between the anomeric carbons. So since it is between the anomeric carbons, we will have to specify the orientation at each carbon. So what we find, that in case of glucose, the anomeric carbon which is involved is the first carbon. And what is the orientation of this OH at the anomeric carbon? It is having alpha. So that means this bond will be named as alpha here. Alpha. And at which carbon is this orientation alpha? 1. So that means it will become alpha dash 1. Now when we go to fructose, we find that in this case, fructose, in the open chain structure, if you remember, the ketonic group, that is the carbonyl group, is at the second carbon. So that carbon has been converted into the hemiacetyl group. So in this case, it is the OH on the second carbon that we will consider. And when we consider this OH on the second carbon, what we find, that we will write 2 here. And what is the configuration at this carbon? It is beta. So that means we will write alpha 1 beta 2 in brackets, right? And that means this is the glycosidic linkage. So you have to be very careful. When we are making the bond, when the glycosidic bond is being formed between the hydroxyl groups of the two anomeric carbons, or between the hydroxyl groups of the two hemiacetyl groups, then in that case you have to specify the orientation at both the carbons. That is at position 1, and the orientation here is alpha, so alpha 1, and in case of this case fructose, it will be 2, so that means beta 2, right? Another thing, just keep in mind, in all aldoses, the anomeric carbon or the hemiacetyl group will be at C1, because it is the aldehydic group at carbon 1 which is being converted into a hemiacetyl group during the cyclization reaction. Whereas in case of ketosis, it will be C2. So the bond is being formed between C1 and C2 here. So now what difference do you find? I have already discussed lactose with you in my previous lecture, maltose, cellobiose. What did we observe there? We observed that the glycosidic bond of sucrose is little different from that of maltose and lactose. Why is it so? Because when we are talking of maltose and lactose, then in that case, the bond is between the C1 unit, that is C1 carbon of the first residue, and C4 carbon of the second residue. That is, one of the anomeric carbon is being involved in the bond formation, and from the second unit we are taking the fourth carbon, which is not an anomeric carbon. But whereas when we talk of glycosidic bond in sucrose, what do we find? That the glycosidic bond is between the anomeric carbons of the subunits. That is, the bond is between the C1 of the glucose, which is, as I have already indicated, it is in alpha position, and C2 of the fructose, which is in beta position, and both these carbons in subunit are the anomeric carbons. So that means the properties of sucrose will also be very different from that of maltose and lactose. So it should come immediately to our mind. So what we are, again I've shown on your screens, is that the linkage is here, that when you look at the linkage, what I'm trying to specify here, what I'm trying to bring to your mind, that you have to keep this in your mind and you have to concentrate on this, that when we are talking of glucose, it is the carbon number 1, and here the linkage is alpha. Why is it alpha? Because the bond between the anomeric carbon and oxygen is pointing downwards. And when we talk of fructose residue, what we find, that the bond between the anomeric carbon and oxygen is pointing upwards. So it is pointing upwards, that means the linkage is beta. So the linkage here is alpha 1 beta 2, glycosidic linkage, and what we are getting here is a sucrose molecule. So that means if you look into the molecule here, we do not have a free hemiacetyl group. We have a acetyl linkage here, that is, we have a glycosidic linkage here. We do not have a free hemiacetyl group, right? So the linkage, so now if we talk of the linkage, again we are specifying on the linkage, we are concentrating on the linkage. The linkage in sucrose is classified as alpha comma beta dash alpha 1 2, and here we are representing this with a double bond. If you remember, in case of lactose, it was represented by 1 arrow 4, which was indicating that 1 is the anomeric carbon and it is making bond with any of the carbons, which was the fourth carbon. Whereas in sucrose we are indicating a double arrow. So what does this double arrow indicate here? And what does this alpha and beta indicates? This is because we have to specify the stereochemistry at the anomeric carbon. So stereochemistry at the anomeric carbon of the glucose residue, it has alpha orientation. That means when we are talking of glucose residue, in that case the CH2OH group and OH are trans to each other. And when we are talking of the orientation at the anomeric carbon 2 of fructose, there that residue has beta orientation, because the CH2OH and the anomeric OH are on the same side, that is, they are cis to each other, right? And now this double arrow which we are indicating, it indicates that the glycosidic bond is between two anomeric carbons. So if we are showing a single bond, a single arrow, that means the bond is between one of the carbons is anomeric and the other carbon is different. It can be any other carbon other than anomeric. Whereas when we are showing a double arrow, it indicates the bond is between, the glycosidic bond is between the two anomeric carbons here. Again I have shown the same thing, that is, this is carbon number 1 which is having alpha configuration of at glucose, and this is carbon number 2 which is having beta configuration at or orientation in fructose. So it is alpha, beta, 1, 2. You know 1, 2 because the bond is being formed between the first carbon and the second carbon. Double arrow shows, arrow with a double head shows that this is both the carbons involved in glycosidic bond formation are anomeric in nature. So when we have this, as you've seen here, that means now this molecule is logged here. So since this molecule is locked, we do not have a hemiacetal group here. So that means this maltose and lactose, unlike this sucrose, will not give a positive test with Benedict's reagent. Benedict's reagent or Tollens reagent or Felling's reagent. It will not give a negative test. Why will it not give a negative test? Because it does not have hemiacetal group, right? And therefore we say it is a non-reducing sugar. Now since it is a non-reducing sugar, so in this case, why is it a non-reducing sugar? The question can be asked. So you will say it is a non-reducing sugar because sucrose is present as, both the monosaccharide units in sucrose are present as acetals or glycosides. So it is a non-reducing sugar. It does not have a free aldehyde group. And since it does not have a free aldehyde group, it does not have a hemiacetal group. So since it does not have a hemiacetal group, it is stable in alkaline medium as well as in aqueous medium. It will not undergo ring opening. It will not exhibit mutarotation. And since it will not exhibit mutarotation, that means sucrose can be used for preserving foods like jams and jellies. We do not add lactose when we are preparing jams and jellies at home. What is added? Sucrose. Don't get confused. What is sucrose? Sucrose is nothing but table sugar. So what do you add when you're preparing jams and jellies? You're adding common sugar to it, the table sugar to it, because it is stable. The acetal linkage, both the units are present as glycosides, that is sucrose as fructose, as well as fructose. And then what you have to remember is the second use of sucrose that we have in plants, that is sucrose is the major sugar for translocation within the plants. That is, it will translocate minerals from one place to another, or it is the, for the sugar, it is the sugar is translocated from one part to another in form of sucrose. Another important reaction that we have to remember for sucrose is that of hydrolysis of sucrose. So if we carry out acidic or enzymatic hydrolysis of sucrose, what we find that sucrose has specific rotation of plus 66.5. And when we carry out this hydrolysis, we get 1:1 mixture of D-glucose and D-fructose. So what we find here is that the mixture that we are getting is that of glucose, which is having specific rotation of 52.5, and that of fructose is 92.4. But the point to be noted here is that glucose is dextrorotatory, which is plus 52.5. Fructose is levorotatory, which is minus 92.5, and initially sucrose had specific rotation of plus 66.5. So when the hydrolysis is carried out, what do you think would be the net rotation of the mixture? That is, it will be in minus. That is, how do we calculate it? Plus 52.5 plus minus 92.4 divided by 2. And we get the value of minus 22. So that means sucrose has a specific rotation of plus 66.5, but the resulting mixture, that is 1:1 mixture of glucose and fructose, has a specific rotation of minus 25. And since the sign of rotation is changing, we say 1:1 mixture is called as invert sugar. So if the question is asked, what is invert sugar? Please remember, invert sugar is 1:1 mixture of glucose and fructose. It is not sucrose. Option may be given sucrose. And then they would ask you what is invert sugar. Then you will explain in it all that sucrose on hydrolysis gives us glucose and fructose, where the specific rotation is changing from positive to negative. Therefore, it is known as invert sugar. The second thing what you have to remember is that the most important material which is having invert sugar is honey. Honey is the most common form of invert sugar. Honey bees have enzyme invertase, and this enzyme invertase breaks sucrose into glucose and fructose. Thus, honey is sweeter than sucrose. So, this is what again I have shown here. Now, I would like to discuss few questions with you before we wind up the lecture. That is, the questions on which I have been concentrating is on the linkages. So, they can ask you a question like this: what are the linkages in this case? So, what you have to remember, you don't have too much of stress. Bond between carbon and oxygen is pointing downwards. So, alpha, which is it, anomeric carbon, and here again bond between anomeric carbon here and O is pointing downwards. So, that means we have to specify, we have to first identify the anomeric carbon and then go on to say what is the orientation of the bond at the anomeric carbon and oxygen, pointing downwards, alpha, again pointing downwards, alpha. Here it is pointing upwards, so beta. Here again it is pointing upwards, again beta. Now, another question which is important is, what will these products give, these disaccharides give us on hydrolysis? So, this of course you know, sucrose will give you glucose, alpha D glucose and beta D fructose. Maltose will give us 2 units of alpha D glucose, and lactose will give us a unit of beta D galactose and alpha D glucose. I had purposely written it like this so that you make a correction here. You have to specify whether it will give us alpha D or beta D. Now, you have to identify each of these sugars by their chemical names. You know, milk sugar is lactose, table sugar is sucrose, cane sugar again is sucrose, as malt sugar is maltose. And for this lecture again, I had referred to the books by Carey, McBury, Wade, Claydon and Solomons, which you can also refer to. I hope these lectures have made the concept of linkages clear. What is hemiacetal, what is and the acetyl linkages, and what are reducing and non-reducing sugars. Please remember again, disaccharides are also known as double sugars. They are the simplest examples of oligosaccharides. In my next lecture, we shall now start with polysaccharides. Thank you.